Welcome, and thanks for joining our 8x8 Administrative Refresher Course recording from a session done earlier today with clients of Matrix Networks. In today's session, you're going to learn about administrative settings, reporting in depth, SMS registration, holiday scheduling, and a whole lot more. But before we get started, for those of you that aren't familiar with Matrix Networks, we are an organization that has one mission: delivering exceptional client experiences through innovative solutions made simple. Our organization focuses on three core competencies: LAN optimization, WAN management, and voice, which is something we've been doing for almost 40 years. So I hope that you get a lot out of this session. Please let us know if there's anything we can help you do with your phone systems, connectivity services, or data infrastructure in the coming future. Thanks for being here. Cheers.
All right. I'm going to start just right at the login screen. And the idea is to look at some things that come up frequently, right? When our customers reach out to me, they say, how do I do this? Or I'm missing this, or help me out a little bit. And one of the places that I think is overlooked in these tiles here is the My 8x8 section. And there's a couple items. We'll bring this open just to bring to your attention. So we've got a few things in here, right? Our bills are here. You can add a credit card in here if you want your automatic payments to go through on your credit card. Any phones that you've ordered, physical items will show up here with your tracking information. Training, right? They've got lots of videos for training in the 8x8 portal. And then your tickets will show up here as well. You don't have to go too far to order new phones. Now, as long as you have put your credit card here for automatic payment, you can shop, add licenses, add devices, and have them sent over. One of the things, though, that I get quite often is customers ask me, hey, Henry, what is my secret passphrase, right? Like I'm trying to make a ticket to make a change, and I don't know what my passphrase is. So that is right up here under mode profile, and you can see I have my default passphrase set here for this demo of welcome one. By default, there will not be a passphrase here. You'll need to put one in. So we see that request a lot. Hey, I'm trying to make a change and they're asking me for my passphrase. It's right here. And then all those other items are right up here. So we'll see our tickets, right? I don't have any open tickets, but if I did have any, I could see all the tickets. And it looks like this one's back from 2022. Same thing with billing, right? We have cost center management here. If you choose to implement cost centers, reach out to me. It can be a little tricky, but we've done some pretty extensive cost center management before. And right under here is where you would add a credit card. So all of those items are under the My 8x8 tab. Another option in here you may have overlooked is the 8x8 Work application. You don't have to download the software. It will run in a web page. And sometimes that's just easier for you. So same application like you're accustomed to seeing, but in a web page. So just know that that is here for you as well. Maybe you're on a computer you don't normally use. And we're going to go into the administration console next. So this is the home page, right? We get these, I don't know, almost cartoon buttons, right? Everything's very simple here. And we see the options for things that we might manage in the phone system. We also have in the upper left this hamburger menu, which has all the options. Some of them aren't in this sort of basic first start menu, but we'll see all of them here. And then we can expand items, things like schedules, right? Our auto attendance and such. So one of the big questions that I get from customers is, how come this is happening, right? Like all our calls aren't going to ring group, they're going to the voicemail, or the holiday menu is not picking up right. And the way that I work through these, right, the first question I ask is, what number are people dialing? because knowing that phone number helps me kind of take down the breadcrumbs to follow what's going on. So we can look at phone numbers and just start there, right? So these are all the phone numbers that we have in our demo system. We can see some are fax phone numbers, right? Voice phone numbers if they're attached to an extension, right? We can see where they're destined to, right? This is a call queue, this is a ring group, or if they're available, okay? So we're going to look at this one right here, the 6500. Now, before we go in and start tracing these breadcrumbs and going in and looking at auto attendants, I want to note that you can take these phone numbers and use them as a shared caller ID, right? For any of these phone numbers. And that puts them in the drop-down list when you want to select your outbound caller ID. If you want to remove it, you can come in if they're a shared one, and you can unassign them from being the shared caller ID. So just note, if you want to share caller ID with a main number and somebody doesn't have that option, you can enable it right here. So the complaint is I'm calling into the main number and all my calls are going to voicemail, or maybe the holiday menu is not picking up. So here's the number we're dialing. Let's go take a look at this auto attendant. So we can have more than one phone number in this auto attendant. This one happens to have one, right? I'm not putting this in the company directory. So when I go into the client software and I type in main menu, right, I'm not going to find that in the directory here, right? Or if I go in to type in a name. So that's what that's hiding from. We have the alternate menu. Occasionally, when we go down, we'll look and see where alternate menu is. Let's say, for whatever reason, the power's off in the building, and we're going to change up how we're answering our calls for that day. Maybe we have a temporary message. Maybe they're going to go to voicemail. Maybe we have a company meeting. We have this alternate menu here, and that can put us into maybe it would be a weather mode, for example, right? Sometimes we get weather, we have to shut down. We say our schedule, right? 8 to 5, we have our time zone, and it's English. Let's take a look at the schedule, because when we scroll down, we can see that I do have a holiday, but my holiday is set to the wrong day. Maybe it was set to last year. Maybe it's actually the second and not the third, right? But this will be probably the number one thing that we're going to hear about in 2 weeks when Labor Day comes up, is that maybe it was set for the day last year. So get ahead of that now, right? You can come to your auto attendants, you can come to your schedules, or you can come to schedules here. They're nested underneath auto attendant in the hamburger menu. I have text to speech here, right? We can do a file, we can have a prompt, and I've got 2 calls that I'm going to a ring group. Closed hours menus, right? In this case, this one's just going to hang up. At lunch hours, and then here's that alternate menu, right? So if we put ourselves in alternate mode, we would be doing maybe the text to speech or going straight to a voicemail here. So these are things to look at. In this case, I've found that when I'm going to my ring groups, nobody's answering. They're all going straight to voicemail, and I need to figure out why. So we're going to go from here into a call queue, and we're going to take a look and see what's going on. So this is under work group, and then we have our call queues here. Now I have my call queue here in 8x8 work, and I'm logged in. So I should be getting calls, but I haven't been. So we're going to come down and take a look why. So we'll come in, we've got our basic information in our queue. This queue happens to have a direct phone number. If this was a support queue, for example, and had a direct number, I could go back into the phone numbers and share this out, right? So we could use it as caller ID to make outbound calls. I've chosen to have only 2 calls in my queue before it goes to overflow. You might choose more or less, that's up to you. I have this displaying the queue in my company directory, people may need to transfer a call to support. So it seemed for me to make sense to do that. So wrap up time. If you get a lot of calls and they come in really quickly, you may need to trim this down or add more people to answer them. Wrap up time is the time between queue calls that I can get another queue call. So you could call my extension directly after I'm done, and this 75 seconds or this wrap time doesn't count. But between queue calls, I've got a little bit of a breather here. 75 seconds is the maximum. But you can tune this if the calls are coming in too quickly, or if people are waiting in queue and you have agents kind of hanging out after the last call, maybe we tune this wrap time down a little bit. Right? When I don't answer a call, let's say the call rings me and I didn't answer before it gets to me again, right? We've got maybe 10 seconds. Maybe I looked away or I got up, who knows? So before the call comes back to me, we have a slight delay that we can play here. And then how much time are we alerting the team member? I would say 5 seconds, about one ring. So this would translate into 3 rings before it goes to someone else. And we have some little informationals here that tell us what our maximums are. In our call queues, right? We've got initial greeting, can update my music on hold. I have a repeating message, and that repeat message plays every 35 seconds. One of the things we can do, and usually I might play it in the repeat message, is to say, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, press 2. So we have an escape in a call queue, not in a ring group, but in a call queue. We can offer our customers an escape if they've been waiting for a while and nobody's answered. So here's my members. And I can see that there is somebody logged in. So I'm really not sure why calls are going straight to voicemail. And I can also, over here, disable their voicemail or log them into the queue, right? So if a voicemail goes to this queue, anybody that has this enabled for the voicemail, it's going to light up their work application or their phone, and they will see voicemails for the queue, like I have right here. And of course, it's easy to add people in, right? We can scroll through. If you have a larger system, you can search for their names. And we can, of course, remove them. Maybe somebody went on vacation. We just want to pull them out. Or you could just log them out. Failovers, right? So let's say we have the first ones that didn't answer, and now we can have maybe a backup group. So we do have some secondary members that ring last. Right? Members can use caller IDs for their phone number. So if you want to share that phone number, we can turn that on. Another way to enable that. And voicemails. You can dial the voicemail system and log in. It does have a PIN, right? The PIN is, there's no default PIN. You have to set it up when you set the company, when you set up the queue. But usually it's easier to pull those voicemails from the work app or from your phone. But we do have an external voicemail greeting and calls from people from inside the company. We could change that. Then the last piece, why are all my calls going to voicemail? Well, for some reason, this has been turned on. And that's how I would solve this issue, right? I would go in and I'd say, well, it looks like for some reason, we've turned all our calls to go to voicemail. Usually, the next question is, how did that happen? And we do have an audit of events, permissions-based, where we can go in and see who came in and who made changes and at what time they made changes. Get a little bit of information about those changes, right? So there is our audit trail as well. So ring groups are a little different in that in a ring group, I get a little bit different of an options here, right? We still have the company directory, we still have a phone number, but I have some choices of what I want to display on my screen or on my phone when a call comes in. Fortunately, these are all pre-chosen for us. I would like it if like I had two menus and I could pick from one from each menu and make my own mixes. But usually I see most often the ring group name and the person's phone number. That's usually what people want to see because the ring group name will say, hey, this is coming in for support or sales, so they know what the purpose of the call is. And then the caller's phone number, just so you have a phone number. I would rather see the caller's name and the ring group name, but at this time, that's not an option we get. Pattern. So this is also different from the queue, right? In the queue, we can do sequential, simultaneous, or round robin. A lot of times when I have a ring group, I see simultaneous rings. This one's important, right? Notify members if they're busy, right? So this was like call waiting for the queue, right? I'm on a call, I'm talking to somebody, but I don't want these calls to end up in voicemail after they've alerted us for, well, we've got 15 seconds, max of 180 while they're hearing music and the phones are ringing or recycling through. So notify members if busy allows you to see that second call, and then you can put the first one on hold and pick it up and toggle back and forth. Not for everybody. Some of you do have use cases like that, and we've set that up so that if you're really busy, you can handle more than one call at once. Here's our members. Same idea as in the call queue, right? We've got our voicemail for who can get it, who can't, and we can remove users here. We can add team members over here. Caller ID, same option, right? We can set this here as well. Voicemail settings, right? Notifications, if we want to get voicemails, right, and also have our voicemails go through as emails, we can turn those on. Maybe this email goes to a group, or we can put more than one email address here. If you're getting call queues and you're getting voicemails to those queues, but maybe they're not being emailed, this is how we would set that up. And then lastly, it looks like somebody has forwarded all of these calls to voicemail as well. So let's go take a look at some user settings. Well, this is one I think that we'll see a lot of people using, right? And sometimes we need to make adjustments, and they are all here. This is one of the things I like about the 8x8 system is you don't have to be very advanced to understand what's here and then make these changes, right? First name and last name. People get unmarried or married sometimes. We have to adjust those. So that's the first thing right here that we get. An email address, here's a username. When we build out the phone systems, at least when I was building them out, we would put the email address in here as the username. And the reason why is hard to forget your email address. And they have to be globally unique in 8x8. So I couldn't just put admin. It would have to be something a little bit more complex. And it checks to make sure nobody else has the same username. So using an email address is almost always unique for the username. We have a concept of groups, right? This is new. We didn't have this a couple of years ago. So I've created a group. We can put people into groups if we like. We've got our time zones here, right? Are they in the directory, right? And then are they in the company directory? Maybe we don't put the CFO or the CIO in the company directory just to help save them on some of those sales calls when people hit the dial by name directory. So we have that option here to hide them. You put in a job title or department, it's searchable in the app. So if I typed in for support, right, if I'm looking for people, I would be able to tag on this job title or these departments, right? And we've got emergency calling. So 911 is important. If you are using the desk phone or the app to call for an emergency, you want to make sure they're coming back to the right place. Individual users, everybody can adjust their emergency address on a one-on-one basis, and we can do it as an administrator to make sure. And there are US laws and requirements to have an accurate 911 address configured for anybody with a phone. Licenses, right? Here we've got some common ones, the X2s, the X1s, the 4s that we'll see. An X1 is basic, just basic voice. The X2 gets you into call queues, enables text messaging functionality. I think those are the two big features from the X2. More countries that you can call that are included in it. And then the X4 has the enhanced reporting that we'll look at after we're done. It's phone number, right? We want to change their phone number. We want to give somebody a second phone number. We can. Here's how we would swap out their phones. Maybe we need to give somebody a new phone. Their old one is done. Any phones that we've provisioned will show up in here. This is not every phone that 8x8 has. They're just the ones that I've attached to the phone system. So generally it'll already be here, but if not, we can help you add one. And I like to do the serial number that's on the back. They call it a MAC address, but you can also use an activation code. When you pick up the phone, it'll say enter your code, and that's all it takes. Not everybody likes call waiting, so I like that I can turn that off. Voicemail settings, right? So we can change individuals' voicemails here for them. We can reset their voicemail password. This comes up a lot, right? Hey, somebody left. I don't know what their voicemail password is. So we can reset their password here. Note that there's nowhere in here to set their regular login password. 8x8 doesn't give us that option. Yes. So if we're resetting their regular password like they log in, we have to come over here and reset their user password. But for their voicemail, it's down here under voicemail settings. External caller ID. Permissions, right? We can let people choose their outbound caller ID, or we can set it for them, permissions based. You may not want your staff members to be able to show their direct number. Everybody gets a direct number with 8x8. So we can turn that off, permissions based, and we can set it for them if that's more appropriate. Caller ID, right? Of course, internal. I will say one other thing for the external caller ID. If you put a name in here, such as Elvis, if I call myself on my Ring Central phone number, it's actually going to show agent one is calling in this phone number. It does pass through the name. Depends on who the endpoint is, who's receiving the call, if that company will pass through that information or not. But 8x8 is sending out whatever you put in here for your display name. So if you want to be Elvis, you could be Elvis. Doesn't display for every phone, for every endpoint, right? But I tried it this morning, and sure enough, on my Ring Central, I got Agent One. Call forwarding. So this is another one where I see team members trying to set stuff up, and we have to go in and kind of take a look and figure out what they were doing. I frequently see that this got set to just forward all calls to voicemail. We see that a lot when we get people asking, why are all my calls going straight to voicemail? So just like the queue in the Ring group, it is a very common request that we get in. How do I fix this or check it? Same idea, though. If you're using the soft phone like I am, and you don't have an internet connection and there's no device that's online, your mobile application, right? Where does it go? Well, we could send it to another extension. In this case, it's going to voicemail. Note that we can do custom rules. So if you have a certain phone number that's always calling you, and they always call you and ask for Ashley, well, I can forward these calls directly to Ashley, for example, every time they call me, and just help them out. So we have stuff like that. We can set your lunchtime, right? Time and period, right? We do for a recurring schedule, right? We could say like between 12 and 1, I'm on lunch. We're going to voicemail or over to Ashley. And so we have quite a few options here to adjust how calls come in. We even took it all the way for one customer who he's an accountant. And so what we did was we set a rule that says when these extensions call me, forward it to my extension, and everybody else that calls, it goes back up to the reception. So he's an accountant, he gets to work, he can get transfers from calls, right, from reception, but somehow his direct number got out over the years and years, and he likes to have reception handle his calls. So we've got a couple of regular 10-digit numbers, like his wife, that goes straight to them. Everybody else goes to reception and then works their way back. So there's a lot we can do with call forwarding rules. If you have something specific you'd like to kind of set up, we can talk through how we might be able to do that. You have an option for, right, music on hold, call recording. This is that X2 license or better. You can automatically record calls. Can you call out or not, right? With that X2 license, you do have an option for fax. And it won't be the same phone number as your direct number, but maybe you've got a company fax. You can put this in reception or whoever would be handling them, and we can send it out as emails, right? When we get the fax notification. Reporting, right? So we can do the essentials, which I'll show you. It's kind of the basic reporting for just about anybody, but the supervisor reporting requires the X4 more expensive license. But if you want basic call logs, hey, who's calling in, who made calls, all of that is, we assign those permissions right here under analytics for work. And then same idea, right? Are we in the auto attendant directory? If you have gone through and registered your text messaging campaign, then you'll see the phone numbers enabled for text messaging right here. And we can see that mine is disabled. So to get this enabled, I have to go through that third party, the campaign registry, and get that enabled. It is not difficult. 8x8 helps you out right here under SMS, and we can get started right here. So they start you with all the items you need to fill in. We'll just note that when you're registering your brand and you're getting your campaign set up, I think the biggest holdup I've seen from that third party, the campaign registry, is on your website. Right? They're looking to see that you have a privacy policy and how people can stop getting text messages from you if they don't want them. And they want to see that published. And not every company has that kind of stuff on their website, but it is becoming, well, it's mandatory in the United States if you want to send text messages. Just be aware. When you're ready to get started with that, it's right here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you get responses back that you don't quite understand, myself or Ashley or our client success team is happy to take a look and see what we can do to get you through to the next step. All right, and those are the users. The next one I want to come and look at is our analytics for work. This is where the reporting is. How about we'll do one more thing before we go back here. I want to show 911 alerting. If somebody calls 911 from your 8x8 phone system under sites, right? And I got here from the hamburger menu right here. We can come in and we can say right here, when somebody dials 911, who gets the email? We can put multiple email addresses here. So under site is where we'll have those email addresses for 911 emergency notifications. If you're looking to set that up, maybe you have compliance that you need to be notified. It's right here under sites. All right. Gonna have me log back in. And these are our analytics. So the call report piece, right? all of this comes with your basic licenses. Everything down below comes with that X4 license, but we'll look at all of them. If some of these are statistics or metrics you want to see, then it may be, we may talk about either getting that X4 license upgraded or moving it around. Maybe you already have one and it's not with the person that needs to see these reports. So here's the time zone, right? That's important to know what time zone. And I can see that I put in myself this morning a whole bunch of inbound calls, just getting this set up so we would have some statistics for you for our reports. And right off the bat, I can see how my company's doing, right? How many abandoned calls are coming in? How many are going to voicemail? How many are just missed? How many calls are answered? So a nice snapshot of what's happening today. And of course, we can download these call records. Call detail records. These are not as easy to read as they could be, but we will take a look at those and kind of walk you through how to understand them. So that's just when you first come in and log in to our analytics for work, we get our company summary. Need to look at some specific extensions, right? It's going to give us our top 10 right off the bat. We can select inbound, outbound, missed time. So we can take a look and see who our top performers are. And in this table, we see a lot of abandoned times, average talk times. We can customize this and add even more items that are here. If I want to know how long the phone's ringing before people are answering calls, we can get that information. And then once it's customized, we can download it, right? So I can set, maybe it's for a month instead of just today like this is. And we can pull these call reports out and take a look at them. If I want to drill in to an individual agent, right, I can click on their extension number and just see those metrics for an individual agent. If you have sales team members and they're supposed to be making a certain number of outbound calls a day or a week, you're not sure if you're making them, this is a nice, easy way to go take a look and see if they're making their outbound calls. I'm slacking today. I haven't made any. Call detail records. So this is what happened to a call, right? Somebody says they call in, they got transferred, somebody hung up on them, not sure where the call got delivered to. Call detailed records is where we find it. So we have a concept of the call ID, and we see this in 3 different legs, right? So I've simplified these call legs just to kind of break them out so you can see what they look like. Here's the initial call. It's come in and it has gone to our auto attendant, right? Next leg of that call, leg number 2, looks like it was transferred to my training queue. And then I see it went straight to voicemail. Now, I would expect to see something like this where the call was presented to me, right? So here's the second leg of a call that was successful. And I can see that it went to my Henry demo account. And this is how I would know if a call came into a queue, right? Who answered it specifically. I can see the phone number of the person that called. I can search by this phone number if I want to, right? Put a search filter in here that says callee, right? Caller. You want to make sure you get the same column is going to match up here, right? So I would want to search for caller and I can put that phone number in here, select finish, and maybe it doesn't want the 1 on there, but we can filter out these calls to look for a specific one. And a lot of times I'm searching for a specific phone number, right? Somebody says, I called from this number, called 5 times. So we can come in this call detail record and we can see if that's there. The other one that's of interest, especially to some of my small business owners, right? The owners of companies, they want to see unreturned calls, calls that came in, but nobody called them back yet. And this could be lost money, right? So I'm looking at my unreturned calls right here. And just like we saw, I didn't make any outbound calls. We can see that all those calls that came in were unreturned. So these are my unreturned calls. Once we step up on our licensing, we can start looking at call quality detail. Somebody says so we get a report of a bad call. We can kind of take a look. So we can see that I made one right here with this little globe that shows you sort of where it was connected to. If you see for some reason, I mean, I'm at the Ashburn data center, but if this said I was connected to a data center in the UK, well, it could be a problem, for example. And so we get some legs of what we can see about this call and where they're coming through. If we click on the eye, we get a lot of information, and I'm not even going to try here today, but we can see that I'm on the Wi-Fi. That's a nice, easy one. And we can come over here and we can see that in this case, quality of my connection changed quite a bit. Like it went up, it went down, it went up, it went down. And the system had to do a little bit of homework to keep that call sounding fine, which it did actually sound fine for me. So that is the call quality detail. And usually at Intelligence, when we put out a system, we put in one of those X4 licenses. And this is one of the reasons why. So we can check out our call quality if we get a report. Queues, right? With that X4 license, if you have queues, I can see my call queues. How many calls came in, wait time, talk time. Note that I don't get a chance to customize this. I can't download it. I don't have a public URL that I can share, but this could be a wallboard, right? If you wanted to put something up for your agents to see how they're doing. Call queue lists, right? So for our lists here, we would be able to see as we have more than one call queue, what's going on with them. And this is for today, right? I've got a little menu here so I can pick my range. And if I had more than one queue, right, I could select which queues we're going to show here. A little bit more info here as well on that. See some details. We do have this one here. I'm going to select this one. And we only have the option to pick that queue. I can pick dates, right? And I can show an agent list. I can show calls are in queue. There are no calls in queue right now. This is another board that I could use to monitor maybe in real time if that's something I was interested in, right? And then I can see we've got calls in progress, calls in queue, and just the agents here. So we can see if they're on a call, for example, or not. My agents are just hanging out. Not quite as much info from a ring group. So this may be another reason why you choose a call queue over a ring group is for some of those analytics we can get. But here's my ring group, and we can see that I made a few calls in here today, right? So our ring group extension, here's my answer. Here's my abandoned calls. Here's how many with the voicemail. Note that there's quite a bit of customization we can do here. So if there are other metrics that you want to see, we could get there and add some different metrics. And of course, we can download this. And the last, well, I do love this one, activity report. So kind of a little bit of a real time, just what are people up to today? And we can see that, here we go. We've got a supervisor that's available. We got me that's available. If I'm on a call, it'll show that you're on a call. You don't need the client software. And the last piece here, I think is interesting. If you have physical phones and you're having problems with them, one of the troubleshooting steps we'll take is to come in here and just see if that phone shows that it's online and where it's connected to. Looks like I've got one device in service. I'm gonna guess that's my soft phone. And we've got one that's out of service. So we can come over to the list and we can see right here, yes, this is my web page phone that I've got open. So I can see that I should be able to accept calls. So That's nice to help troubleshoot if they're using the client software, or if they have a physical phone. We can see if it's in service or out of service, and kind of it's a physical phone, where it's at on its public IP. If it's a physical phone, the serial number here as well. So I like both of these. I like the map because it shows me just where they're at, like where that we think the phones are. And I like the route map because it shows me which data center I'm connected to. Occasionally, we will see phones that are in the US connected. They could be connected to Europe or Australia. I see Australia a lot. That is the end of what I had.